everyone. This is episode 2 of Therapy 365, Perfectionism, Why Being Perfect is a Setup. So today I'm going to talk about perfectionism, a little bit about what it is, why it's problematic, where it comes from, and how you can move away from the need to be perfect to a more balanced approach. So what is perfectionism? Do you have an intense drive to do everything perfectly or essentially be perfect? You may appear on the surface into the world to have it all together, perhaps always be organized, planned ahead, successfully wear multiple hats with ease, and maybe looking very put together physically. And you may even get a lot of reinforcing feedback from people. Wow, how do you do it? You know, and on the surface, it actually could appear that perfectionism could be a strength. And it's true that there can be some advantages to being good at doing things well, but how often, how well, and at what cost? So the problem with perfectionism are multifactored, actually. There's the stress that comes along with trying to attain perfectionism, exhaustion, the anxiety or fear of not doing things perfectly. I've worked with a lot of perfectionists in my practice who actually feel pretty buried under the weight of this drive. Um, and there are really three big problems with trying to be perfect. Number one, it's unattainable. Nobody or nothing is perfect all of the time. Number two, it's stressful. The effort it can take to present in this way can be exhausting and anxiety producing over the long haul. And number three, it's really not sustainable without consequences. How does your desire to be perfect cause suffering? Maybe not only for you, but for other people, your partner, your husband, wife, children, or other close relationships. And how does your desire to be perfect end up becoming weaponized against yourself? So, where does all this perfectionistic behavior come from for people that struggle with that? So, you need to really be open to the possibility that your perfectionism came as a coping strategy a long time ago when you felt out of control in some way when you were much younger. There are so many ways and examples of ways that perfectionists might have felt out of control during their childhood. Here are just some of them. Maybe there was chaos in the home. Perhaps you learned to stay out of the fray by doing things as well as possible to get unnoticed. Um, or high expectations by parents. You might have learned that love is conditional and given upon your performance. Perhaps perfectionism was modeled to you. Maybe one of your parents had a really high bar set for themselves and you internalized that. Body issues. Maybe you have had disordered eating as a young person, and the pressure you put on yourself around your physical appearance has also been put on the other things that you do. Um, there are other reasons that drive this, but these are some of the main ones that have come up in my practice and in my life, I've observed in my life. So, how do you move away from perfectionism? Like, we clearly can see that it's not great. Um, Before you can change anything, you obviously need to see that this type of behavior doesn't serve you and you want this change. And if so, if you're at that point, there are some steps that you can take to work on it. Um, First of all, work to understand the roots of your perfectionism, and a therapist can help you with that. Work on self compassion. This is important. It's not your fault. Actually, your perfectionism was probably a really savvy coping mechanism for you at one time, but it doesn't serve you any longer. Um, you can practice allowing yourself to do things less than perfectly. What's the worst thing that can happen? Do others really care, or is it just you that cares? So practice on the small things. One thing to be aware of is watch for the critic to emerge as you start to do this work, your own critic. You may need to learn to gently speak back to that critic. And again, therapy can be really helpful for that. So, in the next episode of Therapy 365, I'm going to look at emotional safety in relationships, why it's important, what it is, what the challenges come with emotional safety and where they come from, and how to create more emotional safety in your relationship. So, in the meantime, though, you can check out my website, loveandlifetoolbox.com, for emotional health and relationship tips and tools. And I also offer emotional health and relationship consultations via email via that website. So remember, at Therapy 365, your personal growth is never done, as you are always a work in progress.